This is Yolanda Wallace, and I am your host for Mother's War on Violence. And our show is sponsored by WCBU 89.9 FM radio. Welcome again to another podcast. I'd like to start off with a Bible verse, 2 Corinthians, the 10th chapter and the 4th verse from the King James Version. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the pulling down of strongholds. And Mother's War on Violence is calling out those strongholds that start where the violence starts at, and what we can do to stop them individually. The topic of our show is called Being Clean and Sober in a World Where Some Drugs Are Now Legal. And today in our studio, we have Chris Hollins-Warner and we have Angel Morales. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So, we want to share a little bit about each other.
Well, my name is Angel Morales. Thank you for inviting me here this morning. Originally from Puerto Rico, on the way to Chicago, landed in Peoria.
Okay.
What brought me to Peoria was my addiction to drugs and alcohol back in 1973. So I've been around for a little while.
Okay. And of course, you're not addicted to drugs right now. So, what do you do right now? How did you, overcome your addiction? And go ahead and elaborate.
So, no, I'm not using any type of drugs. As a matter of fact, I don't even smoke cigarettes or drink coffee. So, total abstinence for me. Got into a career, got married, have children, regular way of life. How I maintain my sobriety at the present moment is by meeting attendance at a 12-step program. I attend church. I do daily readings, meditation readings, spiritual readings, and I talk to different types of people throughout the day about their recovery or my recovery. And so I have a support system within the 12-step community here in Peoria.
And you sponsor as well,
I
right?
do sponsor people, yes.
Okay, good.
I do, been involved with prison ministry,
Okay.
and I'm also a volunteer with the Salvation Army at the present time.
Okay, great. So that's great for, re-entry back into the world and
remaining sober.
remaining sober.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Angel. And we're going to go to Chris next, and she can give her a little bit information about herself.
Thanks, first of all, for having me to join you this morning. It's really a privilege.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. My journey began, sober living began October the 28th, 1998. So this past October, by the grace of God, I celebrated 24 years of sobriety, and I'm very humbled by that. It was a real rocket start from the beginning, especially before I surrendered and came over into recovery.
Well, how did you know you needed help?
Whew. Wasn't a way of living that I was accustomed to.
Okay.
Wasn't a way of living that I was taught and brought up in. Wasn't the environment I was brought up in. So after I tried everything I could to be what I supposed to be and failed every time, I just kind of went to my knees and was like, I can't do this. I need help, and I surrendered on that day. And
Of course, with help. And what did you?
absolutely so. Well, this was my second time trying to get sober. And the first time I went to a long-term treatment center. And they gave me some good tools and information to follow that I just didn't follow, period. But I thought that I could stay sober from what they gave me and not practice what they told me to practice.
Right. At least you're honest.
Absolutely. And that's a part of how I get to stay here.
How you
being
stay sober. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so and they told me that if I didn't stay sober and I went back out, that it would start where I stopped and I would be in bad shape, right, pretty quick. And that was true. That was a true fact. It unfolded just as I was told it would do for me if I didn't follow the suggestions. And they was trying to get me connected to fellowship, a program, a 12-step program that would help to inspire and encourage and teach, and I could grow in. And I did none of that. And because I didn't do that, I returned back where I was, and I thought that I had it and I could do it on my own, with what they have given me. And that just wasn't sustainable enough, I needed to continue the process and had no clue. I thought I was smart and I knew something, but I found out I didn't really know nothing because I didn't do nothing.
So how do you stay clean and sober today?
I follow those same suggestions. I dive in with all feet flat, both feet flat and hands in the air, and I still ask for help. I still, I'm plugged in now. I got plugged in, and by the grace of God, there was people already there when I got there that helped guided me.
So you had sponsors too.
I had sponsors. 24 years later, I still have a sponsor.
Okay. And what is a sponsor?
A sponsor is the person that have gone through what I've gone through, and they can share their experiences with me, from the very start to where they're at now. And then they also takes the program because they too has a sponsor. So we just keep
They've
sponsoring.
been through the program as well.
Yes, and so we just keep bringing people up in the program that are willing to follow some suggestions, And we have literature and stuff that we study and that guide us through life, And so we just pass it back. It's not good unless we're giving it back.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, thank you both for sharing a part of your life and about how you came into these things here in Peoria. And you are a native of Chicago, right?
No, I was born in Mississippi.
Born and raised. Oh, in Mississippi. Okay.
Yeah, and I came to Peoria when I was 12.
And then you came to Peoria. Okay, you've mostly been in Peoria most of your life.
Peoria is my life. That's what I really know. That's all I really know.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. And then now to our topic. What are the challenges of staying clean and sober in society now, where a lot of the drugs, not a lot, but some of those drugs are now legal? I know that has to be a challenge because, I know that, I've had my own experiences, in my youth, as all people do, and I have had some issues with, everywhere I go, I'm smelling marijuana because that's one of the newest drugs that's been legalized, that you are smelling a lot, and so what's your experience with that? It doesn't matter, whoever wants to go first.
And thanks for that question or that, that topic, because it is very, very, for me, when it first came about, I didn't think a whole lot about it until I really thought about it. This is going to be very challenging. not just for the people that are already out there and using, haven't found their way in yet, but also for those of us that are in recovery. It could be very challenging.
Right, exactly.
And especially for newer people, you know.
Who are just starting to
Who just,
see that they need help to be recovered. Okay.
correct. And so and the reason I say it's more for them, not that any of us cannot be victim of,
Right.
you know, but they are new to it, to the process of recovery and getting plugged in and getting what I like to call a higher power that helped me, that got me sober and helped me to stay sober, you know, that they might not be connected to yet or,
Right.
you know, have their information and the tools that I have. So when I really thought about that, I was like, oh, God. And then I prayed real hard then to my higher power, you know, this thing got to continue to work.
Pray to God, Lord, please.
Yes.
Help us.
Yes, help us, you know, because, you know, it's easier, I think, to, when it becomes legal, to think, well, and then in my mind, I want to think, wow, this stuff is legal now, and I can't even use it, man. How freely it would be to, you know. And see, and it's just a thought. See, but I know how to challenge those thoughts and change those thoughts where someone new may not be able to really do it that quickly.
They don't know how to adapt to the changes and resist the devil, because to me, sometimes, a lot of times, these things are, some people say that marijuana is just just weed. It's just, it's a natural herb, and but we know that sometimes one drug can lead to another drug that can lead to another and another, and it can end up on a binge. And so,
Yes.
So, Angel, what is your take about all this?
Well, on a personal level, it hasn't had any kind of effect on my life at all.
Okay.
I do not enjoy smelling it.
Mm-mm.
Like if last time I smelled it, I was in a restaurant and I thought, what are these people doing, So, but it doesn't affect me on a personal level. I have never had the thought or the idea that because it's legal now, I can partake in that. I haven't had that thought or idea because I have committed my life to God and the commitment that I made to Him on the day of my admission that I was not going to partake in any mind-altering chemicals. So that's gone, right?
That's a blessing.
So what I think, like Chris said, I think for the newcomer to the program or people that are trying to get clean and sober, there might be a challenge to someone, depending on the environment they're in. There's people trying to stay sober that they've got relatives living at home with them that are still partaking substance use.
Right.
And that's a huge challenge, right?
It is.
Especially in the early stages of recovery, sobriety. But the key to that for those folks, I think, is to develop a support system, like the support system that I partake in, the 12-step
You and Chris
program.
take it.
Where there's people that are helpful to you. Like Chris was saying, there's a lot of information, a lot of books that can help us to maintain that abstinence. But for me, the commitment is beyond anything I want to put in my system today.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we have to surround ourselves by like-minded people. That's what I say, and it is. We're challenged with choices all the time. Choices. And there was a reason why we stopped doing those drugs in the first place. It was tearing up, the normal way a person's supposed to live. It was destroying the individual to a point that we were not healthy mentally, spiritually, emotionally. We were a wreck.
Well, I wasn't living according to how God wanted me to live.
Yeah, of course.
So,
yeah, I mean, I understand, because these situations that seem to occurred let us know that we weren't going down the right road. So it was best to try to turn. And so being in recovery is a way to turn your life around.
Right.
Okay? Now, everybody has a different choice of drugs and addiction and stuff like that. I was reading up on some statistics that the state of Illinois had about opioids and stuff like that, and there's also, different mind-altering drugs, and a lot of people don't see marijuana as being a mind-altering drug. Some people, the doctors now prescribe it for you.
Exactly. And I was going to elaborate my thoughts on that a little bit, too.
You can go
Good
right
point.
ahead.
Because that's a part of the whole makeup of this thing. No, thank you.
Okay.
Is the fact that not only is it legal, but it's rapidly becoming a major, for a lot of people, comfort. And even though I believe even in the programs that I love and embrace and helps me, tells us that there's some time that we don't have any opinion on medical advice from a doctor, so it could be very challenging when it's prescribed from a doctor for someone that's in pain. And I believe that it's helpful for some people, but I, for one, have to be real careful with that, and know that I try to follow my doctor's order, but I'm very honest. I'm very honest when it comes to with my doctor as far as my care, and for as me being a recovering drug addict. So I put that real up front. So
self-care is important.
And I have to be honest about that, because doctors doesn't know my everyday life, and my struggle or whatever. So once I'm honest with them and I put that out there, for me, I believe it would have to be that he would say, you gotta have this, or this is gonna happen or whatever, before I even entertain that thought, period. I'm very careful about medication when it comes to pain medication and stuff like that. So marijuana wouldn't be an easy fix for me. We would have to really go down the line in the scale of scaling back something before I could even comprehend the thought of maybe saying, okay, I'll do it. Even though I know some people, get comfort in it and they probably need it. So that's real tricky to me too. And so I would caution people to really, if they're in recovery and they want to be clean and sober, because in the fellowship and 12-step program that I'm affiliated with, with all mind-altering substances, so that includes anything that would alter your mind and your state of being. So marijuana would be one of those, and any other pain medication.
So what is available here in the Peoria area for trying to be clean and sober from, whether it be marijuana, the fentanyl thing is really going around a lot, and we know if they don't get clean and sober, it could lead to a fatality. Any of those drugs could. So what's available?
So as far as folks that need treatment, there's several facilities here in Peoria. Once they complete treatment, then there's support systems in the area. There's multiple organizations in this area that supports a person like myself to remain sober, clean sober, live a sober life. Multiple. There's 12-step programs. There's Celebrate Recovery that deals with Bible-based. There's also a Bible-based program here. So we're in Pekin, Illinois now. So there's multiple choice. If somebody wants to get clean here in this area, there's no excuse to not do it. If somebody needs detoxification from the substance they're involved in, there's also a detox center here for them. Mm-hmm.
Is that still White Oaks or
Well, it's called Unity Point
it's Unity Point?
Yeah.
Okay.
because Unity Point bought the Human Service Center.
Oh, and
White Oak
mental health
system.
services.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see. And I see that that Department of Human Service Center, they can help finance depending on your income level, you know, to help for care, right?
And the ability to pay, so state
Good.
funding is available for those. The thing about that is that if you don't have insurance, you probably wind up waiting for a treatment bed to open up for you to come in. Usually that's how it's been in the past.
It's so.
So in the meantime, if someone doesn't have insurance and winds up on a waiting list waiting for a bed to open up at a treatment center, then my suggestion or the suggestion is for that individual or individuals to try to attend some meetings on a regular basis to get connected with people like myself that are living a recovering life and to receive some support.
That's awesome. And anything to add to that, Chris? One of the support groups around here, do you know, is there a number that you can call or?
Well, mighty wonderful that you ask.
Okay.
Because there is a helpline. I was hoping that it was being visual so that I could just flush that out to the people because it's really awesome. But it says, do you have a problem with drugs or alcohol? So did we. And so this is just a number on here that they can call, and I'd like to leave this poster with you.
Well,
that
great.
you
Can you
post it
tell
in.
them what the number is?
The number is 312-834-3784. Again, 312-834-3784. Or you can also look us up at www.illinoisareaca.org. And you can find a whole bunch of information on that website about this particular organization.
Okay.
Fellowship.
But there are others as well.
Absolutely.
I think the Illinois Department of Human Service, they have whatever your choice of drug use is, there is ways for other resources that are on their website as well, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I just don't want to promote anything because I'm not here to promote. I'm
Of
just,
course.
So having to say that there are different ones, and I know they can go on like a website here in Peoria for other just tons of groups around here, support
Okay.
groups
Okay.
that would help people, and they can go on the website we got what we call an intergroup website, and they can go there, and there's phone numbers and stuff that they can call.
Okay, well, good. I was just wondering how being clean and sober, if there's people who are still thriving for that, because, sometimes, like we say, going to the grocery store, going to, just driving in your car up the street, and, there's a lot of that going on, and sometimes I've heard the latest thing here lately since marijuana has been, and that's just one drug, but there are other choices of drugs that people have, and alcohol as well, because alcohol can be a deadly thing too if you're, if you have addiction problem to it. And
Well,
they
that is
have-
the number one
Yes.
drug.
AA.
Okay.
And AA is still around Peoria, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you can even go to the web page and find Alcohol Anonymous.
AA.org.
Thank you, AA.org.
.org. Yeah.
Okay, great. Because I know that they teach you in these groups that, that one drug leads to another, because most people who have a drug addiction, they don't always just have one addiction. Sometimes it comes with two or multiple
Right.
different addictions, and in order for us to stop the violence, drug use, alcohol use, abuse, or is at the top of that violence spectrum. And when I look at how to stop the violence, and we're talking about tearing down these strongholds, we have to call it out. I have to call it for what it is. I have to say what's starting this type of thing. We aren't fooling ourselves by thinking that let's blame it on somebody else. It starts at home. It starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with us. Identifying what some of these strongholds are in our lives and in our us being as individuals going into the workforce. If you have an addiction to drugs or alcohol, it's going to alter your mind state on working, being a student, being a parent, that's right.
Being a good neighbor.
Being a good neighbor, all these things are going to be affected. And then, and to what would you say to the younger generation if they have an addiction?
Just what we pretty much already said. I would definitely say to them, I would share my experience with them and ask them to just hear me, because you can't tell them anything too much anymore,
Right.
Most of these young kids, but just hear me, and I would tell them where it led me, and a bit of my little story, and
I'd like to see more of that happening in the schools. When we were younger, they did that quite a bit. Just say no to drugs.
the DARE program.
It seems like the DARE program. It just seems like the things that we used to have, they've done away with. All of them are not, just old things, books that you put on the shelf. We can still pull some of that stuff off and, dust some of the cobwebs off so that we can make a better world. I think that even when it comes to domestic violence, I think drugs are altering their thought process and how they think and stuff like that. Sometimes when it comes to the crime and stuff in the neighborhood, drug is at the top of that chart. I'm not going to pretend like that it ain't a factor, like it's the elephant in the room. We know that. I was looking at the statistics over here. I went to the safety net meeting, one safety net meeting, and they were just showing about how from 2021 there were 113 African American males, and then in 2022 it's down to 78 African American males. And then, just going by geographics. And then white males, it was 4 from 2021. And then, this year it's gone down to 3. So it's slowly going down. And then I don't see any arrests for, not very many arrests for Hispanics. But there are some things that and then it also I'm sorry, that was from the homicide statistics, which I believe still drugs are in control of all that, and so anyway, but I just think that we should continue to pray for our community. And for me, there was, I'm always pointing back to God, and there still was times that, in my younger life that I had to go to a meeting. I had to go find help. It just depends on how bad you want the help is what I'll say to a young person. If you want to change your life around, you have to start with you. You can't look at everybody else and blame everybody else for your actions or your life. This is your life. You writing the book. After you get a certain age, I mean, even while you're young and as a kid going to school, it looks like it's cool to do that. All the other kids are doing that. But we have a choice. We do not have to follow everybody, right? What would you say about being a leader?
You're your own best advocate. First of all, because people might lead you down the dark road and they might leave you there. But you're not going to go down that dark road by yourself and lead yourself there. So make good choices while you're in the light. Because once you get in that dark hole, it's not easy to come back, you know. And I just kind of tell my grandchildren pretty much that, you know, that you got an opportunity. Just and I try not to preach to them, and you know, I don't go way back in dinosaur times with them because they fight against that so much, you know. But I tell them I get to live in your time and in the now, you know. And so I'm talking about what's going on now, not necessarily what went on in my time so much. How do you navigate through the now? And that means safety, you know. And it's some of the same things that I grew up with that they need, you know. But it's in the homes. You know, it started in the homes for me. If my parents didn't start that out for me, if, you know, my caregivers, when my parents passed away, if my aunt and uncle hadn't carried on that tradition of bringing up a kid in a way you have them to go.
Supposed to go. When they get old.
They will not depart from it. Even though we go astray or we may stray away from it a little bit, that's what my turning point was. Is that because I was grounded in that, and when I got off course, I knew I was off course because of my upbringing. So I say to the parents first, bring these kids up to the best. Be best with them, you know, and don't mean that they won't stray away from it. But their chances of getting back going to be far or greater.
True. How about you?
Yeah, I think the most important influence is at the house, at the home. And a lot of times, like in my my life, I had good influence with a mother. Church, doing the right things, staying honest. I grew up that way, and I went astray, but I have come back to those things, those simple things that my mom was teaching me.
Amen.
You know, honesty, help others. Don't take things don't belong to you. Don't lie. There's no reason to lie. So I'm back. I'm living that life now that my mom was starting to instill in me when I was a child. So it wasn't all lost, right? And prayer was a big thing in my family. My mom was always praying, especially when I was lost out there in the world. Going back to resources and adolescence, there are some resources in the public schools here in Peoria. They just have to be looked into. So there's like resource officers. So if a child is having problems with drugs, with substance abuse, those are some connections there that might be of help to them.
That's good to know.
Yes, there's a program that deals specifically with narcotics, which is another 12-step program that might be helpful to them. No, I'm not aware of any adolescent-type treatment programs here in the Peoria area for, you know, children under 18. I think there's one out of town, but I'm not real sure right now about that. And then the last thing is there's youth programs that keep, you know, these kids off the streets, like basketball, or you know, there's organizations that I know specifically.
Teen Challenge used to be one of those. I think that helped.
Well, the elite program here in Peoria.
And the elite program.
You know, I know there's some programs over at Neighborhood House.
And at the Dream Center and
things
the
like that. So
House and
people seek those out to get kids involved in those kind of things, keep them off the streets with other kids that are trying to stay off the streets, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the House of Hope, there are some programs now that we didn't used to have years ago. And I think about you know, we talking about age and adolescent and stuff, and the homicides that, you know, a few of them this year, there was 2 of them in my neighborhood within 6 months. They were the same area. And I know that, I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I just believe that, you know, the drugs and the alcohol and whatever type that you're messing with, whether it be pills, because the whole, you know, new thing is to do pop pills, you know, and that is a scary thing because there's side effects to all of this. I mean, all those drugs of long-term use and all that kind of stuff, and they maybe seem like they're safe now, but later on they're going to end up addicting. I know for one, being a what do you call it? I used to work for the detox center, and just knowing and looking at the side effects of the withdrawal from these different drugs that can be fatal, that can be detrimental. I mean, you get stomach aches, you can pass out. I mean, you can start sweating. There are all kind of side effects to these different drugs. And so it's just another good reason why you should be clean and sober during this time. And I know that, what are some of the triggers? And
You mean at this time of year, or
just in general?
in general?
You know, we know that a bad situation, a death anniversary can be a trigger, you know, of somebody they really cared about. Holidays can be a trigger to go and use. And then, you know, there are other things, you know, some might have a bad day, and, you know, but that's why it's important to have your programs that you guys attend, the AA, you know, all these different 12-step programs. But, you know, and there's also, like we said, the other resources. The number one resource for me is prayer and my faith in God. And I don't mean that I just go to church and I let you know, all this stuff come upon me and the preacher just preach at me. I mean, like you said, Angel, what your mom taught you about not stealing and you know, this type thing, that ain't nothing but the commandments of God. And I think if we went back to the commandments of God and even just try to seek him out to find out what his way is, I think he has a better plan for us than what we have for ourselves. Because this stuff is out here thrown into the neighborhoods, into the music, into the system of things, the government, and it is hard to try to figure out a way out. Because we know right from wrong, you know, sometimes we do. But in today's world, talking about parenting again, there's things that people do in front of their kids I never dreamed of. You know, sometimes going to school and the kids smell like marijuana, you know what I'm saying, or smell like something, you know what I mean, just things are different. And I know as, you know, adults and leaders and teachers and stuff like that, we still must go on and give them the best education, even being a mentor to a stranger on the street. You know, we still got to do the best we can to stop them and talk to them, you know.
And that's very true. I'm glad you brought that up, too, because I was sitting here thinking that very same thing. Don't give up. If I could talk to the parents, you know, and because I think the adults is
we frustrated. Some parents are frustrated.
Right, and we're the big factor. Whether we want to be or we see it or we think we make a difference, we really do. You know, at some point, it can make or break a kid. It's what we give them as an adult. Even though we think they're not listening, they don't care, they're not hearing me, do it anyway. Give it to them. You know, keep teaching them, keep standing behind them and bagging them up and encouraging and inspiring them and praying for them and sending them to the right places to get the right thing done. You know, especially when they're young and you do have that ability to kind of guide them, you know, do it even if you don't think it matters, because it really does.
It
You know,
does.
I've seen kids actually talk about, like we're talking about where we came from today, you know, or how they was taught, you know.
Yeah.
And so it makes a difference even though it don't. So that was one of the things that I want to get out there, you know, is to just don't stop. And I wanted people to know, kids or whoever that need help, you're not alone. You're not alone. We're here. We hear you. We feel you. We see you. We are you.
We're concerned about our community.
Yes, and you can come to us. When I gave that number out, it wasn't just a number that sounded good. Use that number, because you could be directed to many different organizations and things through this
help.
number that here. You know, you can get plugged in, you know. They'll even give you personal people that you can connect with. So don't think that you just call a number, you get somebody on there, and they don't really care about you, because they really do. We really do care. And when we give you a number and say call it, please just call if you need help, you know, or you just need somebody to talk to. Call us.
Thanks for that, Chris. Anything else you'd like to add, Angel?
There's a lot of support in the community. People just need to seek it out.
Okay.
Children might not, or younger kids might not be able to do that real well, but parents should be able to make contact with those resources, even if they don't have a problem. It's good to have that information around just in case. Learn about addiction. Learn about support systems in the community. You know, be ready in case something like that happens in your household. You are better equipped then, because there's a tendency when I find out that my child has a substance abuse problem, there's a tendency to react and get all upset and not think clearly about what I should do with this, and begin to punish children. They don't need punishment. What they need is help.
Because the question is why that a person felt that they needed to depend on something to make them feel better. Why? And then there we go into mental health of what causes thing. It could be a mental health thing, or it very well could be just by hanging around with friends and
Curiosity.
peer pressure.
It could be peer pressure. It could you just want to be liked, want to be a part of something better, bigger than them. It could be all. There's a million reasons why, right? Right.
I also wanted to say too, if I can, there's help for families who have people that are addicted to drugs or struggling, so they don't have to be alone either, because
Well,
that's a lonely
good.
place
That's
to
right.
be.
That's good.
To have kids that you don't know what to do, you know, and you love your kid and you want the best for them and you don't know where to start. There's a program for people that have people that are on drugs, and, you know, a way out for them so they can learn and grow, you know, how to handle situations like Angel was talking about. You know, so there's Family Anonymous out there. You know, there's all kinds of
That's
anonymous
great.
programs that good for everybody, not just for the people that
Right.
use drugs or, you know, recovering from drugs and alcohol, but for those that, you know, that are family members of
That's
those
good
people.
support. That's good support.
Yeah. So the family doesn't feel like they're struggling by themselves. Like
That's
they're the
right.
only ones. There's other people that are going through what they're going through, and helping each other out and get that understanding and sharing the resources that they're involved in. It's a win-win situation for everyone.
And we would rather they go and reach out for help instead of ended up in a fatality where, you know, there's some people that get to the point that they just do more drugs because the pain won't stop in the inside in their minds and they can't stop it. So they do more drugs, and sometimes it ends up in a suicide or, you know, something like that. So
Or hurting somebody else.
or hurting someone else. Yes. Well, I thank the both of you for joining me on this podcast today. This concludes our podcast on Mother's War on Violence. And thank you for our listening audience.